Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMTrading. Today is September 30th, 2022, and today is Friday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the markets find a bottom, at least for now. But first, looking at the major economic events of today at 2:30 South African time out of the United States, we have a core price index coming up, which is a major inflationary report out of the United States. Now looking at the Forex symbols, the euro, the British pound, and the Australian dollars all bounced higher after hitting new lows for the year. In terms of the indices, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ bounced as well, but not sure how much longer that's going to actually take. Now looking at commodities, gold rises to resistance-ish level at $16.78, while oil tapering off at $81. And looking at stocks, they continue to rise together with the indices and bounced further. And lastly, Bitcoin unchanged and dead. Really no volatility there. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. We're looking at the Euro USD, and you can see this sharp bounce as we hit 98-ish level. Now, there is resistance at 98, 90-ish level, and obviously around the 1-ish level if we get that high. But that's usually a 50% bounce, and we're almost there. So 98, 90 would be that 50%. So keep that in mind, that that's possibly where we could rise up to if we were going to take it to the upside. Now looking at the Gbp Usd, this is another one that did bounce nicely up to 1168 after hitting a low of 105 on its extremity and 104 on its further extremity. So this is a big bounce for the Gbp, and now keep this in mind. I mean, this is still has way more to go if it wanted to bounce, and we have to go to the 120-ish level if it was to recover from its 136-ish move from 136 down to 1 almost. So this is really just a token bounce, or I would call it a short squeeze if anything else. Now looking at the Australian dollar, didn't bounce as much, and this is really important because when this happens, it's either going to play catch up or it's going to play dead. So this is something to consider moving on to the next level. Now looking at gold, you can see we're hitting that Fibonacci retracement level. If we look at a 4-hour chart a little bit clearer, 1674 is where we're at. 1678 is that resistance-ish level. So keep that in mind. If it falters around here and breaks lower, that's going to be a nice resistance-ish area. Maybe a nice potential short sale here for that move on the downside. Now looking at crude oil, see tapering off after the Hurricane Ian. What happens is this time of the year, there are hurricanes that hit the Gulf of Mexico, and they disrupt the refineries from producing oil and shipping it properly. And what ends up happening is the price of oil usually ricochets during this time of the year. So this has happened, but Hurricane Ian didn't hit the Gulf of Mexico. It hit Florida pretty bad. Our hearts go out to some of the people there, but you could see that the price did get affected, but it's tapering off. Okay, it was due for a bounce since we've sold off from our highs of $90-ish before, and now we're just at $81, so it's natural to be around this area. Now jumping to the Dow Jones, this is where it's at. Let's take a look at a 4-hour chart. We had a sell-off, then we had a short squeeze, and then we had a sell-off the next day. So these type of markets are very volatile. We found a bottom, at least for now, a double bottom at the 29,000-ish area. You can see it quite clearly in the charts. But the question is how much further is this going to bounce? And especially with today's core price index number coming out, is that going to give us that oomph on the upside? So that's what I'm looking for here. If we do get that, that's something to consider. Now looking at the NASDAQ though, let's see what's happening here. At the NASDAQ, it's a different story. It's also bouncing, but not bouncing as sharply. So this is also another one that's just having a lot of difficulty as the markets have corrected themselves from about August 14th, I would say, where we hit about 13,500 on the NASDAQ and 34,000 on the Dow. And now we're trading at 29,000 and at 11,200-ish level, 300-ish level right now. So, there's a big correction here, and I do expect it to go through a period where it's going to balance itself. Now, looking at the individual stocks, Apple does look like it got hammered here, but did bounce. Okay, that's a hammer formation, which is like an exhaustion formation at the bottom of a move. If we look at Alcoa, also did get itself a little bit further higher yesterday, okay, as it kind of making itself up. If we look at Facebook, again, it's just consolidating at the bottom of its range. Microsoft also just consolidating at the bottom of its range, but did get a little bit of a green candle there. Not very encouraging, but got a bottom, at least for now. Okay, now looking at Intel, no bottom. Okay, it's on its close to its lows. Also got a little bit of a bounce, but $26 for Intel, that's a bit hard. Okay, because Intel is a market leader, it's a bellwether, and so it's really important to keep an eye on this in the future. Now looking at Bitcoin lastly, 19,500. You could see on a daily chart how tight this range has been. We've been between a 2,000 point range, and you got to time this, you know, so perfectly. You know, it's just, I'm not saying you can't make money in this, but just be relatively very, very picky about when you're entering, when you're exiting the market, and don't hold it too long, and don't expect more than it's giving you, because it's not in an environment that it could give you more than what it's giving you right now, which is being in a 2,000 point range, whereas before it was in a 5,000 to 10,000 point range, you know, almost on a weekly basis. So keep that in mind as we're looking at Bitcoin as it's consolidating around this area. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day.